So today I'm going to talk to you about my language learning journey, how I reinvented myself to become bilingual. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you're new here, my name is Patricia Brooks. I'm an American living in the south of France and have been for 7 years. And I help people who are ready to start the next chapters of their lives living and thriving in a foreign country move through the blocks they have to making it happen, be it lack of confidence, be it fear, whatever that is. I help them to move through that so that they can live their dream. And on this channel, I post videos about my experiences in France, about moving abroad, and things that will help you to dig down deep and find the confidence and determination so that you can live life the way that you know you were meant to. And today I'm going to talk about reinventing myself so that I could learn French and call myself fluent in it. All right, this is going to be a walk-along video. A couple of nights ago, I had the pleasure of going to an event called the Splendors of China here in my village, and it was stunning. It was really, really beautiful, and I'm so glad that I made it out there. So enjoy the view. Now, I want to start off this conversation by saying that I'm going to be talking about two parts of the journey. One part is the idea of reinvention, and the second part is overcoming or moving through self-doubt so that I could get to this place, and how that is not necessarily a one and done. All right. So to give you some context, the idea or the fact that I am fluent, that I call myself fluent in French, and that French speakers will tell me that my level of French is really pretty good is significant. Because back in high school in the 1980s, when I enrolled in French classes, I did not ever see myself here. I took French because, well, it was a requirement to graduate from high school. And I took French because my mom thought it was such a pretty language. And I didn't disagree. I had no affinity to French. I could have taken Spanish just as well. But I listened to her and I took French in sophomore year, junior year, and senior year. And after those 3 years, was I able to speak, read, write, or even understand French? The answer is no. And that's because I had two things going against me. The first one was I did not have a true desire or motivation to apply myself for French studies. I did not see how it would help me in the future, because when would I be using French? When would I have to speak French? I didn't see that that was something that would be useful, so I didn't apply myself. The second reason, I think, is a little bit bigger than that, and that is because I had a limiting belief about my ability to learn a foreign language. Now, this stems from something my mother said, something very innocent my mother said. In passing, she said to me, "Oh, your brother, he is so talented when it comes to learning languages." And indeed he is. He majored in comparative literature between French and German, right? He is really gifted when it comes to languages. And when my mom told me that, I read into that, oh, your brother is talented in this area and you are not. And so that was a limiting belief that I picked up, that I took on, and that caused me to not believe it. And so if you don't believe something, why are you going to put a lot of effort into it? And so I didn't. Well, fast forward to 2014. That was the year I decided that I was going to solo travel to Quebec City, Canada. And I'd been to Quebec City before with my family when I was 9 or 10 years old. And I remember they spoke French there. And for some reason, at that point, I wanted to learn French. I was motivated. I could see that it could help me to travel to French-speaking countries. And so I signed up for a Pimsleur method program. This is a program that I highly recommend, where you listen to a 30-minute lesson and you repeat the prompts. And it's wonderful because the beginning of the lesson, there's a minute conversation or a minute story that you listen to. And then over the course of the next 29 minutes, you learn words and phrases and you start to recreate that conversation. And then in the next lesson, maybe there's a little bit more of the same. In the third lesson, you add something new. In the fourth lesson, you call back to something you learned in the first lesson. So there's time-space repetition. It's just, for me, it seems like magic when I would go through the lessons and would pick up words and be able to recall words that I hadn't known, 20 days earlier. So that's what I did. And I only had about 5 or 6 weeks before my trip, so I could only get so far, but I was able to say some words and phrases with a fairly good accent, or at least according to the Québécois, and I went, and I landed, and I started speaking French. Bonjour, comment allez-vous? And they would reply, bonjour, comment allez-vous? And then they added a sentence or two of rapid fire French, which I did not understand. I looked like a deer in the headlights. And so they said to me, oh, you speak English. And I thought to myself, that's the only thing I speak. But I was encouraged because they thought that I could speak French. And so that started to break down the limiting belief that I had about my ability to speak French. I went back to Canada a couple of times and to practice my French and to experience Montreal and Quebec City a little bit more. And little by little, I got the idea in my head that maybe I could live in a French-speaking country. So, and maybe I could become fluent in French. And so that is where this idea that I could become fluent in French came from. It was the breaking down of a limiting belief. It was the idea that French is useful, especially if you're going to be traveling to a French-speaking country or maybe even living there. And so that is that. So that's the backstory of what got me started down this path of learning French, down this path of reinventing myself to become bilingual. Now I want to stop here and talk a little bit about reinvention and what that means and why understanding it a little bit more when it comes to doing the things you want to do is important. I recently did a Women Rising Roundtable. And what that is, it's a conversation between a small group of women about a certain topic. And the February 1st conversation was about reinvention. And we talked about, what reinvention meant to each of the women who participated and why they went down a path of reinvention. And I learned some key things, and I want to share those with you because I think that they'll be interesting for you and they'll maybe help shape your next reinvention. So I learned that there are two types of reinvention. There is the reinvention with a capital R, and then there is the reinvention with a small r. All right. Now, reinvention with a big R is a big transformation, right? My not speaking French and then my being able to speak French fluently. That is a big R reinvention. And there are smaller R reinventions that are things that maybe you don't set out to achieve. Maybe it's an interest that you have and you want to maybe take up painting, right? Maybe without the idea of you're becoming the next Picasso, right? You just want to paint. You want to learn how to paint. And so you do that. And so each day you decide you're going to paint a little bit so you can get better and better, right? And you start to create a habit. And so these small R reinventions are really creating new habits so that you show up differently, that you feel different. And in that, there is a reinvention, all right? The second thing that I learned during that session was that depending on where you are in life, if you are feeling more settled or less settled, you will be more inclined to go down the path of one of these reinventions or the other. So if you're in a place where you're feeling pretty satisfied with what's going on in your life, but you would like to make some tweaks maybe you'd like to lose 5 pounds, or maybe you'd like to be able to concentrate more, and so you want to stop consuming so much social media, you might go down the path of creating a new habit, right? And that new habit could turn into a big R reinvention, but it might just be that you just feel better about yourself, or you are healthier, or whatever that is, right? And so if you're more settled, you're more likely to say, oh yeah, I want to create this new habit so that I can feel this way or experience this new thing, okay? But if you are less settled, if you're feeling dissatisfied with your life, that's when you're more likely to say, I need a big change in my life. I am ready to move to a new country. That was another reinvention that I made. And it was something that I decided to do, a big thing I decided to do. And it took a lot of work and effort. And yes, changes in my habits so that I could get here. So they are truly connected. And maybe you start a small habit that turns into a big R reinvention that you never even imagined, right? That's quite possible too. But I thought that those things were important. So I set out on the path of this reinvention for my French language skills. And so now I am at a place where I know that I am at a B1 level. I took a test 2 years ago and I passed that. And I am getting ready to take another test, the DELF exam, at a B2 level to see how I've progressed over the course of the last 2 years. Now, this is an exam that is challenging on a lot of levels. And it's challenging on a lot of levels because 2 of the parts of the exam are where I'm going to have to make an argument. I'm going to have to make an oral argument, and I'm going to have to make a written argument. And these are things that I haven't done in the French language, and I don't typically do in English. And so I don't necessarily have the practice or the skills around that. And so that is where I am today, less than a month out before the exam. And I am taking it. I have gone and I've paid for the exam. So this is happening. I just need to buckle down and get to it, improve my proficiency and my confidence, because I think right there is something that will help me so much. Now I've reinvented myself. I consider myself bilingual, and yet there's this next test that I have to take that has gotten me thinking about how good I really am, right? Even though people have told me that I do really well. And so my self-confidence is a little bit shaky here. And I am feeling a little bit of self-doubt. I said in the beginning I was going to talk about reinvention and self-doubt. And that is where I am today, or that's where I was last week. I'm feeling a little bit more confident just because I have a week more study behind me or under my belt. But that self-confidence comes and goes. And that is not a good feeling when I feel like, I have reinvented myself, which is another thing that I learned about reinvention during that Women Rising Roundtable, is that reinvention is not a destination, but a journey, right? Yes, I'm fluent in French, and there's still more for me to learn. There's still more for me to improve. And I have chosen to continue the reinvention journey by saying that I'm going to take this B2 exam, all right? So how do you work through self-confidence that seems to come and go? You know, that self-doubt that creeps in. Well, that is going to be a discussion that I'm going to be having with a group of women on March 1st. And that's going to be the second Women Rising Roundtable conversation. The topic is self-doubt and how to move through that so that you can experience life the way you want to, so that you can reinvent yourself, big R reinvention or small R reinvention. And that's going to happen on Saturday, March 1st from 11 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. All right. So if you are interested in moving through your self-doubt, if you are interested in learning how to stop second guessing yourself, if you're interested in learning how to move through that self-doubt more quickly, because I think it's something that will exist always, but it doesn't have to derail your hopes or your dreams. All right, so that's happening. If you're interested, I'm going to put a link to that in the description. Go ahead and sign up, save your place. Spots are limited. Only 12 spots are available. Okay, so how am I moving through my self-doubt when it comes to this exam? The simple answer is practice, right? I am reading the examples in this book that I have, and then I am, for the oral part, I am videotaping myself doing the monologue. And then I'm going back and I'm watching myself, and I'm seeing where I didn't know how to say something, or where I wasn't sure if the word was masculine or feminine, and I take notes and I put it in a spreadsheet. And then I go back and I redo it a couple days later after I've studied the words and phrases, and I see the progress that I've made. I am also getting up to speed with different topics like technology and the environment and the education system, because these are topics that are often asked during the DELF exam. And so the more comfortable I am speaking on these subjects that I'm not comfortable as of yet speaking on, then I will have more confidence in my ability to pass this exam. And I will tell you that over the course of the last week, I have improved my confidence in myself. Now, if the exam were tomorrow, would I be confident that I would pass it? I would say that I'd probably be at a 70% that I would pass it. And I want to move that up to a 90% or a 95% or 100% that I'll pass it, because then that will give me the confidence and the composure that I'll need to go through this test more easily. So that is one way that I'm continuing to improve so that I can build the level of confidence that I have. There are 3 other parts of the exam. The oral comprehension, I believe I will be okay with. The written comprehension, I think I will be okay with. My focus is on written production and oral production. And so for the written production, I am writing essays, I'm writing letters, I am memorizing the parts that I can, so that that's one less thing that I have to spend time thinking about how to craft. And little by little, over the course of the next 28 days or so, I will get there. So wish me luck. So that is how I came to reinvent myself, to be the kind of person who speaks French and speaks French fluently. What surprises you most about my journey? Let me know in the comments. Now, that is all I have for you today. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, share it with friends, subscribe, and if you are interested in joining me on March 1st for the roundtable, be sure to sign up today. All right? Talk to you soon. Bye for now.